Think about it. Every hiring decision is a choice that can make or break a team, a culture, and even an entire company. So how do we make the right choice? Hi, I'm Dr. Mickey, and welcome to Inside the Mind of Hiring. Here we'll uncover the psychology and strategy behind effective hiring. Because the right fit isn't just about skill or experience. It's about understanding people, their motivations, their strengths, and the shadows of their shortcomings. Together, we'll tackle the tough questions. How do we look beyond bias? How do we find the qualities that make people not just qualified hires, but the right hires? This is about identifying leaders who drive success, lift morale, and actualize a company's vision. Inside the Mind of Hiring starts now. Well, hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mickey Fineberg, and this show is Inside the Mind of Hiring. And this episode is Succession, Part 2, My Three Sons. Could say my three daughters, but that doesn't apply today. So it's My Three Sons, Succession, Part 2. And part 1 was the last episode. We talked about 9 cousins in generation 3 of a supermarket business. But today I'm going to be discussing leadership succession with my guest, Bob Cohen, the second generation owner, the actual second generation owner of ACME Corrugated Box Company, a multi-generational manufacturer near Philadelphia, PA. Pennsylvania. Bob, thanks so much for joining me on this show today. Very happy you're here. Bob, I'm not sure you're aware of the fact that most family businesses don't get beyond generation 1. Only 30%, according to my research, make it to generation 2, where you're at now. 12% survive into generation 3, and a meager 3% get to generation 4. I guess you know that because you spent your life in a family business. But are you aware of those numbers?
Yeah, I am very aware of that. And I think, Mickey, it really depends on the success of the initial entrepreneur. If somebody's very, very successful, take Campbell Soup, for instance. I mean, they started canned soups back in the 20s. And what I think happened is after 1 or 2 generations, that family had so much money that they didn't care about participating in the business. So I think that's what you see. Either these companies become public
Right.
ownership, or they sell because the next generation is not interested.
Right. Well, that's usually the case. The succeeding generation just isn't able and or not interested. And they're more interested in collecting the proceeds from the sale.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So that's where it's at for most family businesses. And but what I'd like to know first is, as any business owner, you've had to deal with leadership succession, and with your family's contributors to the business. But first, tell us about ACME, your company. Summarize its history and say how your role has evolved until the present time.
Yeah. Well, the business was established by my father. He was a son of immigrants, and he started the business as a young man because his educational experience ended at 8th grade for himself, because his family was very poor, and everybody, the 3 sons of my grandfather, had to go to work. And my father, like many people of that generation, didn't have the education and the power structure of business was not. If you didn't have an education and you were of certain ethnicities, you didn't get into those banking roles or those big business roles.
Right.
So a lot of those people gravitated towards what I call the dirty businesses, scrap businesses. My dad started out in scrap metal and also waste paper.
Wow. So, okay. So he was recycling back then.
Yes, our product has always been recycled. It became a faddish back in the 70s and 80s that everybody is saying they recycled. But I would say the majority of our material today, or not a majority, but a large part of the minority portion of our material is recycled material.
Really?
Yes.
So those corrugated boxes are made out of recycled material that you manufacture.
Yes, because of the cost and environmental concerns, what we call virgin craft mills no longer are going to be built in the United States.
Right.
And the cost of a new craft mill would be about $2 billion. A recycled mill is about a $500 million to start up.
Wow. Wow. So so how did you get into it at one point in your life? Did you get into the business, and how has your role come to this point at this time?
Well, my dad, I was in college and my dad took sick. Well, I was actually in high school. My dad took sick, and my dad passed away when I was a sophomore in college. My
Mm,
educational background, I was going to be a history teacher. I was in liberal arts, and
really?
my brother and I had an older brother who was in the business and a cousin, and they asked me to join them because they needed help. So I left school. I joined the reserves, the Army Reserves. It was really at the height of the Vietnam War. And once I served my time, I started to work in the business. That was in 1969.
Hmm. Who was running the business when your dad
My
passed?
my older brother was running the business at the time, but
Okay.
and we were partners for about 10 years. And then he really lost interest in the business. He wanted to do something else. And so I ended up buying him out and then became the titular president of the company in the early
Right.
1980s.
Hmm. Okay. And tell me how it moved forward and what how things evolved for you.
Well, we were in the low end of the business. We I decided when I was in partnership with my brother, I said to him, I'm not going to stick around unless we're making something. I wanted to make a product.
Right.
So we started to manufacture corrugated boxes in 1973. I purchased my first equipment, and most of the equipment I bought until the early 90s was used equipment that I found on the market. And then after 1989, almost everything we bought was brand new. And today, our facility is state of the art. It's probably one of the most modern plants in the country.
Wow. Wow. That's great. That's great. And what kind of um, questions or challenges have you dealt with in terms of the succession issues in your business? And please include your family and non-family professionals in that context, if you would.
Well, presently, I have three sons in the business. One of my oldest son is in sales. My middle son runs the operation now. He's my GM. Really is the CEO. I mean, he has extensive experience and probably one of the smartest guys in the business. And my youngest son joined me about 5 years ago out of Amazon. He worked at Amazon for about 5 years and then joined me.
Yeah,
Uh,
not a bad idea, by the way.
yeah, all three boys worked outside of the industry before they joined me. I thought it was a
Right.
prerequisite for them to get experience on the outside. My two older sons actually asked to work for me. I didn't, I was not that I was forced to work for the company, but it was a family obligation, and I never wanted to put an obligation on my sons. I wanted them, if they wanted to join, great. If they didn't want to join, they could pursue their own interests.
Right.
But they decided to join me, and then my youngest son worked for Amazon for about 5 years, and then he joined me after that time. So the question is, where do we stand today for succession? We started out very small. I mean, I was the executive. I made all the decisions. Today, I have an executive group. We have an advisory board that meets quarterly, and my sons are part of the board. And middle son runs the executive group. And I am really at this stage of my life, I am a senior advisor more so than active in the day-to-day operation.
Right, right. How did your middle son, who runs the business virtually now, get to where he is? And what kinds of questions did you have about him, uh, before, that led up to where he is right now?
Yeah. Well, I think the questions are never questions his intelligence. My middle son went to the University of Pennsylvania. He was a bioengineering major and got a master's degree in bioengineering and worked for Credit Suisse for about 5 years before he came to
Hmm,
work for me. He's
hmm,
very smart. He's much more detail oriented than his dad, and he's a quick study on our industry and probably one of the people I would trust most about almost every major decision in terms of equipment and the style of running the company.
right, right. And what was his track in the business? And since he's playing, right now he's playing the prominent role in the company. Not that your other sons are doing it. I want to ask you about your other sons in a second. But what questions did you have? You didn't have any questions about his intellect.
No, look, it's a question of maturity. I mean, in the beginning, I think in some ways he acted a little more like an employee than an owner. And I think there was a metamorphosis in his philosophy and his thinking and his
Right.
maturity. I think that's natural.
Uh-huh.
And so, but he came a long way very quickly. None of my sons are particularly entrepreneurial, but they're workers. They're active in the business, and really they couldn't work for me if they weren't workers.
Mhm.
I don't, I have high expectations for them as family members, and for the most part they fulfill that.
Right, right. How, tell me about how maybe non-family principles helped you along the way as your family was developing, as in terms of their roles in the company. Um, I got the sense, having known you, that there were other non-family professionals that helped you with the business as well. Before they were mature enough, let's say, or
Yeah,
your middle one was mature enough.
yeah. My executive group. I mean, a fantastic. I had a fantastic CFO who had grown up in the business as a controller for a number of different containerboard companies. He was very insightful about his thinking. He was very, I mean, the assistance I got from him,
Mhm.
I used to call him a pointer dog because he would point me towards the problems.
Right.
And he couldn't fix them, but he could certainly suss out where the issues were.
Uh-huh.
I had a very strong general manager who spent about 15 years in the envelope business,
Hmm.
and so had a pretty good idea about paper and also was somebody who would go to the problem and try to resolve it. So I had a lot of people that were assisting me as I formulated how we would grow.
Hmm.
So you never find success by yourself. There's always people
Right.
that assist you. So
Right.
I had a lot of help on that road.
Great. Great. Um, so the issues that you had, how have things progressed since your middle son has sort of been at the top operationally of the business?
Well, maybe I can put it this way: we during the pandemic, our business really skyrocketed because everybody was staying home and product had to be shipped in our product in corrugated boxes. So our business really zoomed, and in the middle of that, we did a large expansion of our plant.
Right.
So and we already are working at almost capacity. So the growth has been pretty significant. We're an industry that's dominated by five producers that control about 80% of the market. So as an independent, we have to be more responsive, more flexible, more customer oriented, and we are. And I think that's really lays the groundwork for our success.
Right, right. Um, so your middle son, who runs the business, basically has been involved in facilitating the growth, like through new equipment, um, new resources. Um, and then you have another son who's involved in sales. Tell me a little bit about him.
My older son is very quiet. In fact, I was a little concerned about him being selling because you really have to come out of character when you're quiet as a personality. But
Right,
I
right.
saw that with my brother. My brother was very kind of quiet, but when he got into a sales cycle, he was fairly aggressive at doing that. And
Mhm.
I think of all the salesmen I have in my company, my son is probably one of the most thoughtful about how he proceeds with a client, how he develops a client. So he's been at the top of our sales group for the last, I don't know, 7, 8 years, nine
That's
years.
great.
Yeah,
Um, I got the sense from you in one conversation that he makes people comfortable. People are comfortable with him.
well, he is. He's a very neutral kind of young man. He's very non-threatening. He comes off as knowledgeable but not pushy.
Mhm.
And if you can do consultative selling, that's a much more effective way of selling product than just, I have a price and I have a product.
Right,
So I think he's really mastered that form of selling.
right, right. Um, so and you see that as his career with the company for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, he's not going to be a manager of the company. It's not in his personality.
Right.
And by the way, I accept that from him. I never have pushed him to be something he's not. I don't believe it. I think that people are who they are, and I don't
Mhm.
think you can mold them necessarily to be something you expect.
Right, right. So he's happy in his role. You're happy with the way he's playing his role, and he's really contributing to the profitable growth of the company.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, your youngest, tell me a little bit about your youngest and how he's doing. Um,
Yeah, my youngest is his name is Alex. He worked for Amazon for about 5 years. I think he's trying to figure out what he'd like to do within the company. He's now running our quality department, but I think he wants to get into the production end of the business. Seems to want to be involved with the flow of the business, the flow of the product. He graduated Lehigh University with a degree in supply chain management, so he's very capable. And actually, he was just in to see me because we are trying to develop a pattern for him to grow in the business. He's still relatively young. I think he's 32. So he still has some maturing to do, and I think laying out where he's going to be for the next 5 years is something he would like. He likes the formality.
right, right. Got it. Um, so right now he's working his way around the business. He's focused now on the quality function
Yeah, but he
primarily.
does he wants a production role, and my middle son and I are trying to figure that out right now.
Right,
And we have some plans, and I think those are going to be executed relatively soon.
right, right. How has a character like me helped you in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I think first of all, I think sometimes you can say things to people. I mean, I've sent executives to you, I've sent family members to you, and sometimes I think you can frame it as a third party in a way that if I framed it, it might be more offensive, it might be more uh, destructive to the relationship. So I
Right,
think the fact of your vast background in dealing with industrial situations, family situations, I think it's a big help to use your expertise to try to be that moderating um, voice in discussions with family members and other executives.
right. Great. Now, I appreciate that. Now I wanted to ask you. You mentioned some of the non-family contributors.
Right.
People that often see this show are, they're job seekers. What kind of what has a family business like yours offer people that are non-family members from a career perspective? And what can companies like yours offer people that are non-family members that want a career in a
I
family
give you
business?
I give you one word that I think is really important for human behavior: recognition.
Mhm.
It's realizing somebody's potential. I say to everybody who joins my company, competency, autonomy. In other words, if somebody proves that they're competent in the job they're assuming, I let them run with it. We don't micromanage people. We recognize people for their contribution, not only financially but also spiritually and on a human basis.
Mm.
People are not just numbers; they're meaningful. When I say it's a family business, I mean it. Even though we
Mm.
have almost 300 employees, we try to treat everybody very fairly. We want everybody swimming in the same direction. That ensures the success of the company.
Right, right. So people have a sense of opportunity and personal and career growth with your company. Uh, they're given responsibility and they're given avenues for progression and using their capabilities more broadly as they contribute in your organization.
Let
It
me give you
sounds like.
let me give you an example.
Please, please.
I have a young man who joined me from Penn State as a mechanical engineer about 5 years ago. He worked as an intern, and I remember him calling me and saying, I think I'd like to work for you." And I held the phone out because this kid could work anywhere. He was very smart and very capable.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing is that we had a $50 million expansion, and he handled it with my middle son. And
Hmm.
this was a young man a couple of years out of college, but he's so capable, he's so smart that I entrusted him with that. And I said to him one day, "All your contemporaries that went to work for bigger companies, don't you think they were siloed?" And he said they were absolutely siloed. I said, "But you have had vast experience. You have had experience that none of your contemporaries have had." And he agreed with that. And we did it because I trusted him. I trusted his intelligence, and I
Hmm.
trusted his ability to follow up and do the things the right way.
And he did.
And he did.
And he has. And he
And he
has.
has, and he continues to. He does all our
Great.
major. He's 25 years old, and he does all our major projects.
Terrific.
Yeah.
That's terrific. Well, what does the future look like now for you, Bob, and your family and your non-family contributors? And what, if any, questions need to be answered, for you at this point moving forward?
Well, I'm interested in the longevity of the business. Obviously, I mean, you know, I'm very cognizant of the family nature of our business. People sell. Like you mentioned, a lot of companies don't last into the second, third generation, fourth generation, and a lot of times they sell to equity companies or they sell to strategics. The question is, everything changes. When they promise we're not going to change anything, it's not a truthful statement. And so I don't want to sound like a do-gooder, but I'm very concerned about the way my people are treated. And um, so the thought of selling my business has never really entered my mind. Uh,
Hmm.
Now, I don't know what my next generation might do. You never can tell if they want to do something different. But right now, they're vested in the business, and I would say that's the important thing is that they if I can imbue them with the same thoughts about the people that surround them. We have really good people that surround us, and to keep that going and to have that success is very meaningful to me personally.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of dedication to sustaining your business as a family business. I mean,
Well,
it
let me
really
give
seems that way. You get a lot of enrichment, Bob, and achievement about sustaining your business as a family business.
well, let me tell you one thing. I have a young woman that's worked for me since high school. She's worked for me for 39 years.
Hmm.
She's got a steel trap memory. She can remember orders. We do 40,000 orders a year, and she can remember an order that occurred 3 years ago.
Oh my God.
Um, and 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 I often think about that dedication. She'll never have another job. It's
Hmm.
an amazing process, and you grow close to people because not on a personal level. You don't want to intrude on
Right.
their personal space, but you grow close to them in a business sec that you really depend on them, and they know you depend on them, and they react accordingly.
Okay. That's great. That's a great little story. Um, Moving forward, what does Generation 4 look like right now?
It's hard to tell. I have six grandchildren, the
Right.
youngest being about 13 months. So who
Okay.
knows? I have two granddaughters in college, but
Right.
who knows what they would like to do. You know, I would like to leave that opportunity open to them.
That's great. That's great. So your G4 is relatively young right now.
Yes, pretty young.
And G3, right, they're not exactly ancient though. So
No,
you got some
my
time.
oldest son is 51, and my next one is 48, and then the next one is 32.
So yeah, there's plenty of youth there
Yeah.
in G3. So hey, Bob, I really appreciate your coming on today. You told me things actually that were pretty enlightening for me about how the business, the seeds of the business, the roots of the business, how it grew, how you got involved. I didn't really know much about your brother's contribution and how that was how you worked that through with him. But that's all very interesting, and I've appreciated knowing you, and I wish you the best. I wish you and your business the best moving into G3 and G4 and beyond. So
Well, thank
thanks
you
for
very much.
joining me.
Thank you very much, Mickey. Thank you.
You got it in spades. Take care.
Take care.
You have been listening to Inside the Mind of Hiring with me, Dr. Mickey Feinberg. Tune in the first and third Tuesday at 11 on Transformation Talk Radio to discover the psychology of making successful hiring decisions. In each episode, hiring managers and HR pros will learn how to leverage assessments and other key screening sources and avoid common pitfalls. Job seekers will gain insight into successfully presenting themselves. For more information on assessing people for mission-critical jobs and on career assessment and coaching, visit deltaconsultants.com and my LinkedIn profile. If you'd like to write me personally, it's Mickey, Mickey, @deltaconsultants.com.